Have you ever wondered why people across Asia so often eat with chopsticks instead of knives or forks? Picture a steaming bowl set down in front of you. The air smells like garlic, ginger, and something toasted. Your hands reach for two slender sticks, and the first tap against porcelain sounds almost polite. It feels so normal that it barely feels like a choice. But here's the quiet twist. Chopsticks weren't invented for eating at all. They began as kitchen tools, simple sticks used to reach into heat, then slowly climbed from the fire to the table. The reason isn't because it's tradition. It's because the food changed, fuel became precious, and a peaceful table mattered. Let's get into it right here on Secrets of Simple Things. A utensil is a solution. It's tempting to treat chopsticks as just culture, the way a flag is culture, symbolic, inherited, unquestioned. But a utensil is first a solution. It answers a practical problem. What shape does food take when it reaches your mouth? And what do your hands need to do to get it there? Knives and forks assume one thing. Food arrives in pieces that still need cutting, pinning, or tearing at the plate. Chopsticks assume something else. The cutting happened earlier. The food is already prepared in manageable bites, ready to be lifted, turned, dipped, and shared. That's the core idea to hold on to. Tradition comes later. First comes a small technology that fits the habits of a kitchen and the rhythm of a table. And chopsticks, before they were elegant, were simply useful. Before they were polite, they were practical. To understand chopsticks, you have to begin away from the dining table, in the heat of an ancient kitchen. The earliest evidence of chopstick-like tools appears in China around 1200 BCE, in ruins from the Shang dynasty. These weren't delicate eating sticks. They were made of bronze and used to handle food where fingers couldn't go. Imagine a communal pot simmering over fire. Steam rises. Someone needs to reach in to pull out a piece of meat or a dumpling without burning skin. Two long sticks work like an extension of the hand, light, precise, and safe. In that world, eating with hands was still common, and spoons made from shells or bamboo were familiar. The two sticks belonged to cooking first. So the question becomes, how did a cooking tool climb onto the table and stay there for thousands of years? Small pieces changed the table. A few centuries later, China began shifting the way meals were prepared, and the reasons were less romantic than you'd expect. Population grew, cities thickened, fuel mattered. Around the Zhou dynasty, roughly 1000 BCE, there was increasing emphasis on cutting food into small, bite-sized pieces before cooking. This wasn't just convenience. Smaller pieces cook faster, and faster cooking saves fuel. When wood becomes scarcer in densely populated regions, saving fuel isn't a lifestyle choice. It's survival math. Cut the food small, stir-fry it quickly, simmer it efficiently. Stretch a limited resource across more meals, more families, more winters. Now notice what that does to the table. If food arrives already cut into manageable bites, the knife loses its job. A blade at the plate becomes unnecessary, even awkward. All you need is something that can lift, sort, and share small pieces without crushing them. Two sticks suddenly become perfect. Chopsticks didn't win because they were charming. They fit a new logic. When the kitchen does the cutting, the table doesn't need a blade. A peaceful meal doesn't need blades. Then practicality met philosophy, and the match was strangely neat. Confucian values shaped social life in China for centuries, and dining was not just eating, it was harmony. Confucius was said to dislike knives at the table because they reminded people of violence and war. A meal, in his view, should calm the room, not arm it. Whether every detail of that story is literal or partly legend, the feeling behind it matters. Chopsticks are gentle tools. They do not stab. They do not slice. They require a certain patience, a small pause, a careful grip, a sense of control. Even the gesture of picking up food becomes quieter. So the chopstick became more than efficient. It became appropriate. It suited a vision of the table as a place where conflict stays outside, and people meet as participants in a shared ritual. Over time, the utensil carried a kind of moral aesthetic, simple, restrained, and non-threatening. And once an object fits both the body and the values of a society, it becomes hard to replace. Same idea, different hands. Chopsticks didn't remain only in China. As culture, trade, and philosophy spread, so did this small tool. By around 500 CE, chopsticks had reached Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, and each place shaped them to match local life. In Korea, chopsticks were traditionally made of metal, often brass or silver, and they tend to be flatter and shorter than Chinese chopsticks. They are commonly paired with a spoon, which handles rice and soups, while the chopsticks manage side dishes. In Japan, chopsticks became shorter and more pointed, suited to delicate foods and precise movements. The idea of personal chopsticks, hashi, also became important, a set meant for individual use rather than communal sharing. Vietnamese chopsticks, commonly made of wood or bamboo, are often slightly longer, reflecting a style of eating that involves reaching into shared dishes, lifting from bowls. The same concept, adjusted for different hands, different tables, different meals. This is the genius of chopsticks. They are simple enough to travel and flexible enough to become local. Warm wood, quiet rules. Chopsticks have been made from nearly everything: bamboo, wood, bone, ivory, silver, gold, even jade. But bamboo and wood stayed common for a reason. They are easy to shape, gentle on bowls, and warm in the hand. Tools that feel less like equipment and more like an extension of touch. And once an object is held this often, it collects etiquette. Gestures become signals. Standing chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice is taboo because it resembles incense at funerals. Passing food from chopsticks to chopsticks can feel wrong for similar ritual reasons. Even how you rest them, across a bowl, on a stand, beside a plate, can quietly communicate respect, patience, and self-control. This is how a practical tool becomes cultural, not by speeches, but by repeated hands, until motion becomes meaning. Why English says chopsticks. Even the English name for chopsticks carries a travel story. When Western traders reached China in the 17th century, they heard local terms connected to speed. In Chinese, kuai can mean fast, and there were phrases describing the sticks as quick little tools. English-speaking sailors in the South China Sea, using trade slang and pidgin English, adopted the phrase chop chop, meaning quickly. Over time, chopsticks emerged, quick sticks, named by people who were moving goods, not writing dictionaries. It's a reminder that objects don't just cross borders. Words cross with them, bending in accent and necessity. A utensil that began in ancient kitchens gained a global nickname in the mouths of sailors. What people get wrong. The biggest misunderstanding is thinking chopsticks exist simply because that's what Asians prefer. Preference is the surface. The deeper reason is structure, how food is prepared, how it's served, and what a meal is meant to feel like. Another common mistake is assuming chopsticks replaced knives because chopsticks are better. They are better at one job, lifting small pieces. But the crucial shift was that knives left the table when the kitchen took over the cutting. The blade didn't disappear, it moved backstage. And many people assume chopsticks were always eating tools. In fact, their oldest role was cooking, reaching into heat, handling food safely, acting like nimble tongs. The table came later. Once you clear those myths, the story becomes surprisingly modern. Change the kitchen, and the table changes with it. The 5-second rule. Predict the utensil from the food. Here's the 5-second rule you can carry anywhere. If the kitchen did the cutting, the table doesn't need a blade. Look at the food. Does it arrive in bite-sized pieces meant to be lifted and shared? Stir-fries, dumplings, noodles, hot pots, small grilled bites. Chopsticks make immediate sense because their strength is control without cutting. Or does it arrive in large pieces that expect you to slice on the plate? Steaks, roasts, thick fillets, big sandwiches. Then forks and knives dominate because cutting is part of eating, not something completed beforehand. Small pieces, no knife, 2 sticks. It's not about east versus west. It's about where the cutting happens and what the table is designed to do. 2 sticks, 1 long memory. So, why were chopsticks invented? Not because someone wanted an elegant symbol, and not because forks had yet to be invented. Chopsticks began as a simple answer to heat, a safe way to reach into boiling pots and fires. They rose to the table when fuel became precious and food was cut smaller to cook faster. They endured because they matched a philosophy that wanted the table to feel peaceful, and because they adapted. Metal in Korea, pointed and personal in Japan, longer and communal in Vietnam. The next time you pick up chopsticks, you're not just holding 2 sticks. You're holding a small agreement between kitchen and table, between scarcity and craft, between practicality and meaning. A tool that learned manners and then taught them. If this changed how you see chopsticks, tell me in the comments. What's the first dish you think of when you hold a pair? And if you enjoy uncovering the quiet stories hidden inside everyday things, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next small secret.